Yay!
All right, live from DC round 2. So go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, everybody. I'm Emily Cutler. I'm a student in clinical mental health counseling in Tampa, Florida. And I've also done a lot of activism and advocacy work in the peer mental health advocacy movement.
That's fantastic. And you did quite a bit of speaking this morning, and I've heard you throughout the entire time that I've been here. So you are kind of amazing. Which is why you're here. So how much are you willing to share? Like, the stage is yours.
Yeah. Do you want me to start with my story, I guess?
Yeah, if you're willing.
Sure.
Please.
Growing up, I was one of the only Jewish and queer kids in my school. So I experienced quite a lot of bullying from my classmates, from teachers sometimes even. I was just always kind of weird and different, and basically felt like something was wrong with me. And as a result, really struggled with my mental health, felt suicidal sometimes, felt really depressed, anxious, very panicked about going to school. And I saw a number of different therapists growing up, and it always felt like they were kind of trying to make me more normal. It was kind of suggested, oh, you could act, a little bit more normal, a little less weird. Maybe don't tell people you're queer. Don't tell people about all these things that are different about you. Just try to fit in, and then you won't have these issues. Or, well, maybe you should stop crying so much. Just maybe exercise a little more. And some of it was valuable, but a lot of it wasn't super helpful. And I continued to just kind of feel like something was wrong with me. Like I was just different and out of place. And there was something fundamentally unlikable about me. And then when I went off to college, I kind of continued to struggle to make friends, to fit in. And so finally, I kind of reluctantly went to my college's counseling center, sought therapy. I was like, I don't know what else to do. I still felt like something was horribly wrong with me. And I remember just walking into my college's counseling center and feeling like, well, here we go again. This therapist is going to tell me that something's wrong with me and tell me that I need to stop crying so much and stop feeling so depressed. And I'll try, but I don't know if I can. He ended up saying, in my first session when I'm telling him all this, and I'm like, I know you probably think something's wrong with me. He ended up saying, like, actually, I think how you feel is a pretty normal reaction. It sounds like you've had a hard time growing up. You've been bullied, and it's normal to feel depressed about that, to kind of cry a lot. And it's pretty normal to struggle to fit in your first year of college. And, I see a lot of clients who struggle with that. And he also told me, I think you're resilient. I think it shows a lot of strength that you came here to seek therapy. And that was really life-changing for me, to kind of have that relationship with someone who all the positives about me and didn't jump to assume like something's wrong with me the first time we met, and continued just kind of accepting me and empowering me to find others who would be accepting and supportive. So that's kind of my perspective on mental health and advocacy, is that I really just want to help people access support that is accepting of who they are and is about empowering them to find other people who are supportive, find peer support, just find spaces where they can be themselves and not feel like something's wrong with them.
Mm-hmm.
And so I believe in the value of peer support and in non-judgmental supportive counseling and other types of services that kind of have that approach.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the hope of the direction that we're moving as a peer movement. It's beautiful that you did at least find that somewhere so that you had that validation.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So you're in school now. What is your overall goal with your education?
My goal is to be a licensed mental health counselor. I'm not completely sure yet what kind of direction I want to go in. I am really interested in working with trauma survivors and people who have kind of similar experiences to mine, who have struggled with bullying, who have been made to feel like there's something wrong with them and they don't fit in. I'm also interested in working with people with disabilities or disabled people. I personally have come to kind of identify as a person with a psychiatric disability because I have struggled with my mental health so much. And that has been a really positive part of my life, identifying that way and coming into the community with other people who identify as having lived experience of mental health challenges or trauma or psychiatric disabilities. So yeah, just kind of continuing to empower people with disabilities to advocate for themselves and find those supportive communities.
That's fantastic. And how did you end up here at Alternatives?
Yeah, so I kind of, after having these experiences, I just got really interested in like social justice informed approaches to mental health. I saw this kind of contrast between the therapy that I had that was more about like fixing me or saying that something is wrong with me, kind of a lot of diagnosis, medication. And I'm not saying that diagnosis and medication isn't valuable because it really is for many people. But what really helped me was more just that collaborative, supportive relationship where it was just okay to be who I was and okay to have big feelings sometimes and express that. And so yeah, I kind of found the peer support movement of people with lived experience of this kind of thing coming together and supporting each other and really just providing non-judgmental space for people to experience whatever they're experiencing. And that's kind of how I found the Alternatives Conference. It's for peer specialists. It's for people who are working toward those social justice informed approaches to mental health care that are more emphasizing of collaboration and also the social factors that are kind of making someone feel distress or mental illness.
And you spoke this morning.
Yes.
And you're speaking again, or have you already spoke again and I missed it?
Yeah, so I did 2 workshops this morning.
Okay, 2.
And then I'm doing a caucus tomorrow night. I'm organizing a caucus for mental health professionals and students with lived experience.
Wow. Okay, so I did miss one. Okay, so can you share about those?
Yes. So this morning I did one workshop on the Health at Every Size movement. So that's kind of a movement about accepting people at every size, promoting healthy behaviors among people at all sizes. Unfortunately, I've done a lot of research and work in the area of bullying, and unfortunately, one of the biggest reasons for bullying is people's weight status or people who are categorized as obese or overweight are much more likely to be bullied, both in schools and then just discriminated against all throughout life, abused in the healthcare system. Just lots of kind of violations that happen just because of someone's weight. And so health at every size is this paradigm that has kind of arisen to counter that and to say that, someone shouldn't be discriminated against because of their size, and weight loss should not necessarily always be a goal for someone, that it should be more about just promoting healthy behaviors, and that's not necessarily correlated with weight. So I did a workshop on that because I think that is so important to mental health, to make sure that people of all body sizes are accepted and valued, and that you're not treated like complete crap just because you're a certain weight.
Yep.
So that was my first workshop. And then my second workshop was social justice informed strategies for suicide prevention or supporting suicidal people. And yeah, that was kind of looking at a number of different social factors that lead people to feel suicidal and lead people to want to end their lives, and kind of how can we take those into account when we're supporting suicidal people. So we talked a lot about disability justice, for example, and how people with disabilities are kind of given this message that they're not valuable, not worthy, that they're a burden to society, and how can we affirm their worth and just provide care that's really supportive, and not saying that you have to be perfectly able-bodied or able-minded in order to be valuable and be loved and accepted on this planet. We talked about a number of other issues too, kind of queer antagonism, homophobia, transphobia, economic inequality, and just how we can provide care that acknowledges those as causes of suicide at times.
Yeah. And then tomorrow you're gathering people together?
Yes. So I am a counseling student, hoping to be a licensed mental health professional with lived experience of mental health challenges. And there are tons of others out there.
Mhm.
Often it's not something talked about in the field. There's this idea that if you have a mental health challenge or a psychiatric disability, whatever, a mental illness, whatever term you prefer, then that means that you're not as competent or you can't be as successful. You can't be as good at your job, effective as a therapist. And so I really want to counter that message. I want to get people together who have lived experience and kind of people who believe in the message that actually that can make us really great counselors, that can help us really empathize with our clients in a lot of ways. And we all know what it's like to be there and kind of move toward that more collaborative relationship where it's not us saying this is the right way to live your life, but you know, I've experienced mental health challenges too, and I've struggled too, and let's kind of work through this together because we're both sharing this experience in some ways.
Yeah. I feel like the reason I'm in the peer world is because peers understand on a level that somebody who's never been there can't understand.
Yes.
And, you know, the idea that there are more counselors and therapists that have lived experience encourages me.
Yeah.
And so that like makes my heart warm. And I know that like we've had other guests who have lived experience and are living with experience and are licensed therapists. And it's like kind of like the hush hush thing still. And it's like, so thank you for being able to, you know, be a student and be going through that and be living and still stand up for that. Because I agree with you, like that we shouldn't have to hide if we're in that ever.
Yeah. I mean, I see a therapist right now who's had lived experience and of a lot of different things. And I don't know that I could ever see a therapist who like hasn't had some sort of lived experience, just because I sort of I want to know at least that someone has been through it to some extent to kind of, you know that they sort of get it, and they're not going to judge me. They're not going to be like, oh, this other different thing that I don't know about. It's like, no, like this is okay. It's okay to have these big feelings and these experiences.
Yeah. Big feelings, big experiences, which I think is terms that we use in the peer world that should probably be incorporated into just natural language.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah. And I think that if a counselor says that they've never had any experience, they probably aren't being honest.
I agree.
Because I don't know very many human beings that are alive that haven't had an experience.
Absolutely. Yes.
Now, I understand that there are some laws that prohibit them talking about their experience, and I'm okay with that. But that's why I'm also in the peer world, because we have a little bit more permission to share our experiences with another peer.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So, yeah. And I mean, that's also probably why you're here too.
Yeah.
I mean, camaraderie.
Yes, for sure. And I think that, there needs to be both. I think the clinical space where a person can focus entirely on them, and it's not, I think counselors can occasionally self-disclose and say something pretty vague, and that's totally fine. But I think it's important to have that space where it's just about the client. But it's also so important to have peer support where everyone's sharing their experience with each other and sharing their expertise and their knowledge about what it means to have these experiences, and also like how to deal with the discrimination you face, how to deal with stigma, how to deal with those times when you think that you're less worthy or less valuable because you're going through, depression or anxiety or hearing voices or whatever. It's so important to kind of have that like solidarity and community.
Right. I know that one of the workshops that I was at today, the topic of romanticizing mental illness came up, and there was kind of like I personally feel like, well, what's wrong with romanticizing mental illness? Like the idea of I guess technically I romanticize my mental illness because I apparently am getting messages on Facebook that I should close that. Here, let me close that. Yeah. So I technically romanticize it because I am a person who has what is classified as voices and visions, and I celebrate this, not out of that. I use that to empower myself, and I love the snot out of it. But then somebody else is like, well, yeah, but like, what if when you go into the deep sorrow of it? And I'm like, shadow work. And I romanticize the snot out of that because like that's what I needed personally to do to survive it. But I also realized that like I'm a little bit different and weird, but at the same time, like I think that there can be positive ways to romanticize things. And I mean, what do you have feelings on that at all?
I agree. Yeah. So I of course wouldn't ever deny that there's suffering, and I think the danger of something like sometimes in the peer community we take stances that we're proud of this and disability pride and everything, mad pride, if that's a term that
I
people
love
like.
Mad pride. I embrace crazy.
Yeah. So like I think there's always a danger that someone is going to feel like, or you're denying that I experience suffering, or this is a really serious thing. And of course it is. And like some people are really suffering and it's traumatic and like that needs to be acknowledged. But at the same time, being proud of it, just taking a stance that there are positives that can come out of it. I think that that's really positive. I think that that's something that helps people accept themselves. It certainly helps me accept myself. And to me, it's part of like strengths-based support. It's looking at like, well, what are the positives? And I believe that my own mental health challenges have made me a more empathetic person, that I have a lot of empathy for people suffering. I think that I am more sensitive to like the needs of marginalized groups and people who are experiencing any kind of isolation or marginalization. And then I also think at times it makes me more creative. I also identify as someone who's like weird and different, and I kind of like that. I'm unique. So, that doesn't mean that I don't get support and seek counseling when times are really tough, but it doesn't, I don't think that people with psychiatric disabilities should be like demonized, or they should be all bad, or something that always needs to be, eradicated or things like that.
Right. Yeah. I agree with you. I really do. And all right. So yeah, the thing that I noticed, because I met you here.
Yes.
And you obviously have a lot of passions and a lot of things going on, and you fit into a lot of niche categories.
Yeah.
Like you have a lot of spaces that you could totally bloom into. Mm-hmm. And I've never seen you sitting at a table by yourself, which is, I mean, a beautiful thing to be able to do.
That my high school and like middle school self never would have imagined that, right? Like I thought like when I was like very suicidal in like middle and high school, I like really thought like no one will like me. Like I am the most unlikable person on the planet. Like everyone's going to hate me for the rest of my life. I might as well die. Like, and I'm here. And yeah, like every time I sit down at the cafeteria, people are like, Emily, hi. Like, can I sit with you? Yeah. And I'm like, oh my God. Like, yeah, that's so amazing. People like me. Like, oh.
It's kind of a beautiful thing to feel like if you could go back in time and tell yourself, do you think that you would believe yourself?
No.
That's kind of the world, huh?
Yeah.
Like, man.
Yeah.
So, okay. And moving forward, like
this has been my world for the past 4 years, I think. And,
wow.
But what is new to me is being a counseling student. That
oh, wow.
I just started my counseling program and kind of just made the decision that that's something that I want to do, is become a counselor. And so that's new, is kind of like navigating both those roles and both those worlds. And I've been considered a peer for so long and just very like open about all of my lived experience, and kind of known in this world to some extent, but the clinical world, it's kind of a different role. And so that's new, integrating
navigating both of those at the same time. Okay. So, and then when how long do you have before you're finished with school?
2 years.
2 years.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then 2 years of like post school, like training hours and stuff. And then
okay. Okay. And then you have your practice that you get to do.
Yes.
That's going to be exciting.
Yeah.
Do you have, well, I guess no, you said that you're not quite sure what that's going to be, but I guess between now and then anything could happen. Huh?
Yeah. As I mentioned, really interested in trauma, really interested in kind of like the disability self-advocacy world, encouraging people to advocate for themselves. Also really interested potentially in
Hi, Tina. Sorry.
Also really interested in like health at every size work. So helping people like heal from eating disorders and things like that through kind of body acceptance and things like that.
Yeah. We are live from Washington, D.C. at Alternatives right now. So, okay. So the health at all sizes must have been the one that I missed. And that, like, I'm really sad I missed that, because like I totally feel that I struggled with my weight because I'm born into a family of addicts. I have the addict's mind, and instead of turning to artificial chemical addiction, I turned to self-harm and food. And I got to almost 300, and straight up everything that was wrong with me was, well, you should just lose weight. And I mean, it was also partly like I was a great shadow. As long as I was big, I didn't get flirted with. I didn't get, as like, I get hit on a lot more now. And there is a certain level of it being a kind of a protection. So, but as long as I was trying to lose weight, I couldn't lose weight to save my life. But then when I stopped trying to lose weight and started trying to get rid of my headaches and fix my mental health, I've lost 100 pounds since then. And it's kind of nuts. It's like, stop focusing on the stupid thing and focus on the person, and things actually change.
Yeah. And I think that's really common in the health at every size world, that once you stop trying, you either lose weight. I mean, and not weight loss isn't necessarily positive, but a lot of people just become healthier, period.
Hit what my body normal should have been. Every person's body normal is different.
Absolutely. Yes.
I am back at where I was before I got pregnant. And that's essentially where my body normal was. And I mean, I accept and acknowledge that, like, a person's body normal can be bigger or smaller.
Absolutely.
It's just like, I was sick. I was sick, and they weren't addressing the sick. They were addressing the size.
Right. Absolutely.
And that's, I support several peers that struggle with that. And between that and the mental health being like, I'll go to the ER with somebody, and they can go to the ER with a sprained ankle, and the doctor will look at their chart and say, oh, you have bipolar. Are you taking your medication?
Right.
Are you sure you have a sprained ankle? It's like, are you kidding me? But that's why they take me, because A, witness, B, if they can't voice for themselves, then they have somebody who can help.
That's awesome.
And But yay.
Thank you.
Okay, so almost 45 minutes. So anything else that you want to share?
I don't think so. If anyone is in or near the DC area, definitely come to Alternatives. And also, if you want to learn more about, I guess, me or my work or anything, my website is emilyscutler.com. And feel free to contact me if you want to, if you have questions, or if you, especially if you're also a mental health professional or studying to be one and you have lived experience. I'm really interested in getting people together with that kind of, both of those identities. So would love to hear from you.
And you can give me anything that you want in the description to plug.
Awesome.
Get it to me, and I'm going to be getting those in later. So that people can connect with people.
Awesome.
So thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right. Talk to you guys later. Bye. Is it stopping? And